Hello everyone and welcome back to Age of Nagash, channel dedicated to Age of Sigmar, and in this video we're going to be talking about how to get into Age of Sigmar. So a bit of a big topic this one, but I thought I haven't really covered it properly, so I thought about time to do a video on it. So this is going to be a brief summary on how to actually get into Age of Sigmar if you're brand new to it and you don't really know anything about it. Or if you're already a veteran in the hobby, you can still pick up a couple of tips or maybe a little bit of inspiration. So, firstly, what is Age of Sigmar? So Age of Sigmar is a tabletop game by Games Workshop within their world of Warhammer. Essentially, if you have ever heard of Warhammer Fantasy, it is the sequel to that. And if you still have not really heard of what Warhammer is and all that sort of thing, I'm surprised you're watching this video. But in the case of that, essentially, it's a fantasy tabletop game where, you know, it's like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, that sort of thing, but just a more higher fantasy, probably close to things like Warcraft or something like that, I would imagine. However, Warhammer is far more superior because it's just got so much in depth to it. Age of Sigmar is quite new compared to all the other games that Warhammer has released, Games Workshop has given to us, but it has developed its lore quite quickly. Bear in mind, it's only been out for about 4 years. Now, Age of Sigmar is done pretty well, in all honesty. Essentially, you have almighty gods and their disciples fighting against each other willingly and otherwise, and all the greyness in between. You have the good and the bad, but it's never really that straightforward. And it's very much like that sort of sense in 40k as well, if you're familiar with that. So that is a sort of story behind it, roughly, very quickly. I'll be doing another video in the future saying exactly what is Age of Sigmar, because bear in mind this is just how to get into it in this video. And your role in all of this is essentially you choose an army you like, you build the models, you paint them however you'd like to, you choose your allegiances, and then they go to battle and to war on the tabletop in a game of strategy and luck as you roll with dice. Essentially, it's a massive glorified version of chess. However, unlike chess, this has got dragons, giants, war machines, all sorts of a nasty goodness. So that is what makes it a good and fun game. So that's a really quick, brief, sort of introduction to what it is. Now, actually going into how do you start Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So the first thing you want to do, and I've made a list here of what I say what to do in order, and sort of my way of looking at how to start it. So you may be there already wanting to start it, itching to go, that sort of thing. But the first thing I would say to you guys is some of you may be looking for a bit more inspiration before you start, or you just want to know a bit more about what Warhammer Age of Sigmar is. And obviously I'm going to say that I've done hundreds of videos on the subject of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, you know, more than one to check those out. But my biggest advice to give to you guys is to get more inspiration and knowledge really of what you're going to do, because Warhammer is an expensive hobby at the end of the day. You don't want to just dive in head first without actually having a clue of what you're doing, and your money's all just going to go down the drain essentially. And I think a few of us are more than guilty of that. So where are you going to get inspiration? You're going to get inspiration from several places. The main one I'm going to say is the internet. The internet is an incredible tool these days, and especially when it comes to finding out more about Warhammer. If you go on there, you can go on to things like all types of social media, so you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that sort of thing. It's full with people who do the hobby, and they are more than willing to help out with any questions, anything like that. They also, post pictures and lore and all that sort of thing about their models and their armies, so you get great inspiration visually from that. On the internet you also got things like Google Images, which is a great way to look at color schemes, models. That's fantastic for me. That's sometimes what I do. Like if I was to paint a creature, and I want to paint a creature similar to something we have on our planet, so as an example, if I was to paint some Seraphon and I want to paint it like a lizard, then I will go on to the internet and type in lizard patterns and all that sort of thing, and try and make it realistic and see what interesting things you can get. It's the same if if I was doing another army like that. So Tyranids, if you search bugs and all that sort of thing on the internet, you can get some really cool inspiration that you would have never really have thought of. The other thing I think was quite cool is, and to be honest, when I say quite cool, I think this is the main thing personally for me, and that is YouTube. Because although I am a YouTube content creator, of the Age of Nagash, I watch YouTube so much in my spare time when I can to get some more knowledge and still inspiration. Even like I've been doing the hobby now for 5 years, still inspiration into it, of how things that I never really thought of, like for example, I've recently started an army that I know nothing really about, which is a 40k army, which is different to Age of Sigmar. However, I went on there, searched up some lore about 40k, and I found a wealth of stuff that I didn't even know about. Or if we go to Age of Sigmar, as an example, if I want to know more about Seraphon, I want to know more about Stormcast, or more about, well, I know quite a lot about Death, but more about, you know, Zeech or whatever, I can go onto YouTube and there will be someone out there, more than likely, who's done a video about it. And for me, I'm severely dyslexic, like I'm sure quite a few people are, so reading's not really my favourite pastime. So if I can have someone or explain the lore to me, or, you know, like tactics, that's absolutely great. A few channels out there are going to be things like 2 Plus Tough does great lore videos. You've got things like the Honest Wargamer for Age of Sigmar, that's great on giving tactics. And then if you're really quite new to tabletop hobby, like you haven't played any Warhammer, you haven't played any of the other games out there, you're brand new to it, I would say probably the best channel for you guys is probably go to Tabletop Minions. There's a guy on there, calls himself Uncle Adam. He is fantastic for tabletop tips. He admits he's not a competitive player, all that sort of thing, but he does like weekly videos which are talking about interesting topics, and generally every video I've got something out of it, what I've watched of his. So yeah, those are sort of, you know, great reasons why I love YouTube. Also, you've got painting tutorials on there. I mean, if you're listening to this video, obviously you're on YouTube looking for inspiration, which, you know, I'm happy that you found this video or any of my other videos, and it just shows that, you know, it's a great place to seek out that advice. And it's also, you know, there's so many things out there like podcasts, you know, on YouTube essentially, where, like, you know, you can listen to stuff like this when you're driving and everything else. And then if you're still a little bit of a caveman and you don't like the internet and you just prefer to go out and about in person and socialise with people, weirdo, if you like that sort of thing, then head down to like your local hobby store, Warhammer store, whatever it might be, gaming club. If you know if there is one there, if you don't know anything, if there's a gaming club or anything nearby, have a look on Facebook. Again, brings you to that. But it just, you know, you can search the area. But like I say, go down to your local store, ask some questions there. If you've got a local Warhammer store, Games Workshop store, so it used to be called, go down there and they'll be happy to talk to you about, you know, like their products essentially, because they want to sell you stuff. But they're happy to explain things to you in a nice manner. Most of the stores will. And then if you're really after lore for inspiration behind what armies you want to do, I would then go to look at Black Library. So you could go to Warhammer store and you could buy a Black Library book there and then, or you can go online and read a bit more about essentially the Black Library. I think it's just a massive collection of Warhammer lore that, you know, is available to buy. You've also got things like Warhammer wikis, that sort of thing that has loads of information, knowledge there. So more than free, check all that out. Okay, so that is where you'll get your inspiration. And then that takes us to our next part, which are the essentials you need in this hobby. So this is a little bit like the boring buys you have to make for the hobby. It's not talking about all the models you need to get. We're going to get to that bit later, how to collect your armies. But right now, the essentials. And this are things like what you generally need to be able to, you know, like what you need when you buy a box of miniatures, to get them from on a plastic frame, which they come with in the box. How do you get them built, painted, on the table and playing games? Essentially, what you need are things like clippers. You also need plastic glue, a hobby knife. So let's just stop there. When I say clippers, they don't have to be Games Workshop stuff. And none of this stuff has to be Games Workshop. But for me personally, I find I'm more than happy with them. Yeah, Games Workshop is fairly expensive, but in my honest opinion, with some of their stuff, you get what you pay for. Their clippers, really good. Their plastic glue, really good. Again, if you've got plastic glue from, you know, Airfix or something, it should probably do, you know, the same job. A hobby knife is essentially just like a scalpel is basically what they use, or a surgeon knife, whatever it's called. It's that. There are things like mold line removers. So in case you're not too aware, how this all works is I'll start from the beginning. So the clippers, what they do is cut off the bits of plastic off the frame they come in from the boxes of models you buy. So you need that. You can't do it with scissors. You could try, but you're gonna, at the end of the day, you're just probably going to damage your models, and the models are really expensive. So you're trying to, like, you know, cheapskate on not getting the right tools, and you're wasting your own money at that point. So that's what the clippers do. The hobby knife cuts off the little rough bits from where you've cut the plastic off the sprues, as we call the frames, which the bits of models are on. And then the mold line removers are essentially where models get made is essentially, probably going to get this wrong, but like, melted plastic or plastic liquid, whatever you want to call it, gets injected into a mold, and then, and that's make the plastic set to make, like all the pieces to make a model, essentially. And from that mold they're in, you get mold lines, which are like little lines that are across models. Like you see it a lot of the time if you've got a model and you've got like and he's a man, let's just say, and he's got a leg, there might be like a line you see going up the leg, which is a bit of a like line of plastic sticking out, like you can feel it if you run your finger across it. That is going to be a mold line. So you can get this thing called a mold line remover. If you're brand new to the hobby, is it essential? I would probably say, you could go without it, but I quite like it because from whenever I start, the hobby, I want my models to look, I know not look fantastic because, you're brand new and painting and all that sort of thing, but want to make them look as good as I can. So I like the mold line remover. Not everyone gets it, but I like it. It's essentially just a blunt bit of metal, which, people say, well, you can just use any blunt bit of metal. Yeah, but this is nicely formed for the job, shall we say. So you've got that. And then you've also got things like super glue. Now, I don't recommend the Games Workshop super glue because I think it's a load of shit. So there are some things I recommend for Games Workshop, but their super glue is essentially not very good. It dries out really quickly. It comes in a nice little package. You get it all over your hands. Buy normal super glue. So like I just buy, like I go to, there's a store near me called Wilco's, which happens to be next to my Warhammer store. I go to there to buy my super glue because you get it cheaper in there and it's just better. And because there's a few resin models in Age of Sigmar, shall we say, especially if you're doing Forge World or resin, you need to get super glue for that sort of thing. Because how plastic glue works, it melts plastic together. So, as an example, plastic glue is not going to work on things like resin or things like metal. Right, on metal, if plastic glue is designed to melt plastic together and make it stick that way, it's not going to work on metal, is it? It just won't work. So there's that. I'm not a scientist, by the way, as you can probably tell how I've been explaining this, but that is, for me, how to describe it. Right, okay, and then you also need things like paint pots and all that sort of thing for your paints, depending on how you want to paint the army. Now, you don't have to buy all the paints at one go. Absolutely not. You can probably get away with buying like 4 paints, 5 paints, maybe. Especially for, like your first models. Absolutely, you can get away with that. Don't buy the whole range in one go. If you really want to, you can crack on, you can do that. But honestly, don't need to buy that many. There's a few like starter sets what Game Workshop does for paints, pots and all that sort of thing. And to be honest, those starter sets aren't bad, particularly if you're going for one of those armies they've made that starter set for. Right, and then with your paint pots, obviously you need paintbrushes. Now, Games Workshop sends a whole variety of paintbrushes all up for sale. And some of them are incredibly expensive, and the other ones are just expensive. Now, there's a lot of people out there who say there are better paintbrushes than Games Workshop, and there may be better brushes out of Games Workshop, because they do charge a lot of money for what they are. Some people use, cheap ones, and they use them really well, and that's all good. But for me, I just like the ease of going to a Games Workshop and picking up a brush. And I know that, those brushes are made by Games Workshop, and I build and paint the models from Games Workshop. So for me, it kind of makes sense, and I use Games Workshop paints. Not that the brushes really affect that, but they do different styles of brushes for their different paints, which I do like. Did you have to buy all the paintbrushes in one go? Absolutely not. I would say you could get away, especially for your first model. Let's just say if you could buy 2 paintbrushes and you had, for your first model, what would I say you'd get? I would say buy either a small or medium layer brush and a medium shade brush is what I'd say. They're my 2 first brushes I'd go for. Okay, and then that is really the sort of hobby inside. And then when you go to actually playing your games, what you definitely need from the start is a tape measure and some dice. Some of the box sets you can get from Games Workshop come with like 6 dice. It's like a handful of dice, and sometimes they come with like a 12-inch measuring stick. But realistically, just buy a little cube of dice and a tape measure. It's not expensive and it's worth it. So that essentially is the tools you need to be able to get from the start of buying your models. Obviously, to buy your models, you need to earn a wage, and to be able to do that, you need to work. So you need to give your time to be able to get the money to buy the models. But once you've done that, which is the hard part in life, then you can buy the models. You can use all these tools to build them, paint them, and then game with them. Right, okay, the next essential part you need, and this is going to be the books for Age of Sigmar. Now, firstly, there was once a time where it was very simple in Age of Sigmar to play the game, because essentially there's a 4-page rulebook, and that is all you needed. Age of Sigmar has developed quite considerably since then, as there's now a whole range of gaming books you can buy. However, realistically, do you need them all? I say no. So what you're going to need is the core rules. If you haven't played the game, especially to learn the game, you need your core rules. They're free. You can get that on download, or you can maybe go into your store and pick up a set, maybe, or you get them in like a big box set or something. You'll get like a leaflet of the core rules, a booklet if you like, and you can get them online easy, and you can get them like on an app on your phone. So those are what you mainly need. Now, to play the game more sort of competitively, which I will cover in more videos, you need a General's Handbook. So the General's Handbook comes with the points for all the units in the game, and it comes with battle plans and all that sort of thing. So essentially missions for you to play your games with, rather than just your army slamming into the enemy's army and killing that way, which was the first way to play Age of Sigmar, which got quite boring quite quickly. But so that is why you need the General's Handbook. And there's one out for every year. So like right at the moment, we're still using the 2019 one. And there'll probably be a 2021 coming out in about June time this year. So that's that. There's also the core book. So not the core rules, but the core book, which is essentially the core rule book, which sounds a bit confusing, but essentially the massive hardback book. Do you need to buy it? I say no. There's probably there are rules in there that are useful for the game. And, you know, if you get stuck in a situation, it's like, oh, I don't know what we do. What do the rules say? You're not really going to know unless you buy that book, or if you ask online, something like that. So the book is useful for that, but I've rarely used it in games because it's just so big to carry around, and you can get away with using other things which we're going to talk about. But that book does have realm abilities in there, which are essentially a way to play the game in competitively, but you can get those in another book which we're going to talk about. However, the core rule book does have a mass amount of lore to it. It's got about 50% of that book is lore, which is really cool. So if you love that sort of thing, you love reading, loads of pictures and all that sort of thing, it is a nice touch, shall we say. And then you've got Malign Sorcery, which has additional, essentially spells, artifacts and abilities for your units to be able to use in your game. So your models can get additional, abilities from using that book, essentially, to explain it in a simple way. Now, the reason why, obviously on this picture you can see we've got a battle tome to the left with a big red arrow to it, and we have got something called the gaming book with a big red arrow to it, and then the other books I just talk about haven't. And the reason why I say that is because instead of buying the General's Handbook, the core rule book and Malign Sorcery, you can get away with just getting the gaming book, technically, because the gaming book has all the battle plans in it. It has all the realm abilities in it, and it has all the special abilities, spells, artifacts from Malign Sorcery. Now, the reason why that book is very, very good is because it might be a small book, but it just contains all that in one useful book, rather than you have to carry around like 3 or 4 books and just makes everything ridiculous. Now you can get away with just carrying that around and your battle tome, rather than carrying around, like I say, like 5 books. So that is very useful, and I would say that is essential. The real books you need are the gaming book and the Legions of Nagash, obviously, because that's the best army to go for. But I suppose you could play another army, supposedly. So yes, get yourself the battle tome for your army and the gaming book. Now, some armies do not have a battle tomes, and their allegiance abilities are in the General's Handbook. And that is the case, but most armies do now have battle tomes, so it's not nearly as much of a problem as it was before. The only thing to mention, if you don't get the General's Handbook though, is you're not getting your points. The only points you'll get are things like from your battle tome. You'll get points in there, but they might not be the most updated ones. So where'd you get them? If you go to War Scroll Builder, which is on the Warhammer community site, which is a free list building table essentially, so it's a way for you to be able to build a list of what's in your army that you want to take to a game with points. Now essentially, I know I've mentioned points already, but what they are is every unit in the game in match play, so competitive play, has points. Now this means that you can go to your local game store and play against someone you don't know, but you've already agreed that you are playing a 2,000 point game, which is the standard size large game for Age of Sigmar. So what that means is you don't know what army he's playing, you don't know if he's going to bring a load of monsters, a load of cavalry, a load of artillery, a load of infantry, whatever. What you do know though is that your armies should be equally balanced as best as balance can be against each other, rather than just going to a game and just saying let's have a large game. You know, what the hell does that mean? So it's a way for you to be able to balance stuff. So points are important. And if you don't want to buy the General's Handbook, you can get your points online in the Warhammer community on their War Scroll Builder. If you also want to invest in their app, so essentially Age of Sigmar has got an app which is an amazing app which gives you all the War Scrolls, so all the model rules are on there, as the model rules are free, so you can look all them things up. They're called War Scrolls, which is great. Essentially a page or paper that just details that model's rules. Like, I don't know, if you want a giant, they're on the Giant of the Gargant now it's called. There will be a page that says all his rules. He moves this many inches. He attacks with this. He has got this ability. You know, this is how many hit points he's got, wounds he's got. So that is great that they're free. And on that app, you can pay for a £1 subscription, or 99p subscription, I believe it is in the UK. And what that means is that you can have a list building on your app on your phone. So you're out and about on the bus. I don't know, on the toilet, you can build your army lists there and there when you're doing your business, which is cool. So that's good. However, though, the main reason I'm emphasising on, maybe not getting the General's Handbook, because this time of year, there's going to be another General's Handbook probably within the next 5 months, maybe. So try and avoid it at the moment if you want to. But if you want to buy it, crack on, because it's not a bad buy. There's missions in there you're going to use. And it's some people just like to have the books, rather than just trying to find all these things online. So it's up to you, really. I just wanted to explain it to you guys. Okay, so those are the books. Like I say, the bare minimum you can get away with is your Battle Tome and the gaming book. Right, so with that, we are going to move on to the next part, which is going to be the funner part, which is going to be talking about starting your army. And how I've done this is said that you can start your army in 4 ways. There are more ways to do this if you go in between the lines and look, behind the sofa and all that sort of thing, of course. But for me, there are 4 main ways you can start an army. So to summarise them, what we've got is getting a starter box set. So these are things like Soul Wars, or these other big army box sets you see with, like, you buy a box set for £100 and it's got 2 armies in there. You can do that. Another way you can do it is the Mortal Realm subscription. So this is something I talked about in a video a couple of days ago in a lot more depth, so you can check that out. Essentially what you do is you're subscribing to a magazine on a monthly basis, and you get models once a month, and the models you're going to get are not a huge amount, but because this goes on for like 80 magazines or 80 issues, you're going to end up with sizable armies, but it's just going to take a little bit of time to get there. And then you've got start collecting boxes, which are a great value boxes, and most armies now have them. I appreciate not every army has them, but most army now have a start collecting box. And they are great, probably the best value way of getting into that army. And the last thing we have is, like, secondhand Warhammer buy/sell pages and like eBay, etc. That sort of thing. Essentially buying secondhand Warhammer. So the first thing we're going to look at is going to be the Age of Sigmar starter box set. So these are, like I said, big boxes where you get not 2 massive armies in a box, but 2 reasonable size forces that you can certainly start playing some games with. And this is going to be the main one we have at the moment for Age of Sigmar is called Soul Wars. And that is between Stormcast Eternals and Nighthaunt. Or, a better way to describe it, big armoured knights who are basically demigods versus spooky ghosts. Now, Soul Wars has been around for a while. It is like the mainstay Age of Sigmar box for the moment, and there were, like, the last one before it was called the Age of Sigmar starter box set, which is, the first one, which was between Stormcast and Khorne Bloodbound, and this is the new one. This came out with the new big rule update and all that sort of thing. The other interesting thing to mention about these starter box sets is that they do have limited, like, sort of edition starter box sets, if you like. So we've got one out at the moment, actually, that is called Ether War. So what Ether War is, it puts two other armies against each other, which are, it's nice. It gives those two other armies that might not have like a big box set or something for them a nice way to get into them, that sort of thing. Ones we've had in the past are things like Feast of Bones, which were between like Ogre Moor tribes, ogres essentially, and Osirok Bone Reapers, which are like basically sort of Asian Empire sort of style skeletons, if you like. We've had ones like Carrion Empire, which is between like Flesh-Eater Courts, cannibals essentially, and Skaven, which are like chaos mutated rat people. And we've had many more as well, but they are limited run. So basically, they make a certain amount for them, and then when they're there, but when they're gone, they are gone. So if you go onto Games Workshop website now, if you look at the Ether War box, that's no longer available. And that's not mean, oh, they're just going to bring it out later when they make a few more. As far as I'm aware, they're not making any more. However, if you do look at the other third-party retailers, things like, I don't know, Element Games, Dark Sphere, maybe, stuff like that, you can still buy it currently at the moment when this is being recorded. So don't worry about that. But they are like, do think about obviously making a purchase like that, because they are like £100 or something. However, don't think too long if you really want it, because it's not going to be there forever. Soul Wars is going to be there for a while. You know, that's not really going anywhere anytime soon, that I'm aware of. So these starter boxes, how much sort of, good value do you get? Usually, really good value. Really, really good value, to be fair. Sometimes better than others, like the Ether War one. I don't know how amazing that value is. It hasn't been as good as the last few starter boxes. The Soul Wars one is particularly good. And the only problem with these boxes, though, because obviously there are negative sides to each of these points, essentially. The problem with the Soul Wars box and the other ones as well, it's a case of, do you like the armies in the box? Now that might sound like a simple question, but like, let's take Soul Wars for example. If you don't like the Stormcasts, which are the gold ones, and you don't like the Nighthaunt, which are the Speaky Ghosts, it's really good value. But if you don't like the models, why get the box? You might think, I'm going to buy it and then try and sell things online for more money. You're not going to do that, because anyone can do that. So that is the problem with this box, in all honesty, and not just this one, with all these starter boxes, but it's only a problem if you don't like the armies. And what I will say, and I can explain this again in another video, more point, do the armies you like the look of, not the ones that are best on the table. It's most important you do armies that you like the look of, because painting, some people really love it, but most people, it's a love and hate relationship, like building and painting those models, because it does take a lot of time. And if you're building like 100 models or something like that, or 70, you don't want to do an army where you're just telling yourself when you're building it, going, oh, I hate this and I don't really like the look of them, but they're the best on the table. It's not going to motivate you to be able to paint them. And the game competitively changes all the time, like to a insane amount, especially compared to most other games out there. So always go for what you like the look of, not for what the rules are. And yeah, that's why I mentioned, if you don't like the Stormcast, don't like Nighthaunt, don't do it. Alternatively, if you like the Nighthaunt and you're lucky enough to have a mate that likes the Stormcast, or vice versa, brilliant. Split the box, you make fantastic value. If you can split this box with someone that and you do it, evenly, 50-50, brilliant. You're going to, really good. And that's generally the same with things like Ether War, like Carrion Empire, all the other ones, the other, sort of limited run starter box sets. They are really good if you can split them. And also, to mention the starter boxes, you tend to get, so far in every one, a particularly certain hero who is limited to that box and will not be made available to buy separately until some point in the distant future. Which, in all honesty, I can't tell you when that will be. I know it's just going to be at some point in the future. So if you really like some of those models, you might want to get the box, because you can buy them online separately now, but people charge ridiculous money for it. It's absolutely stupid. So scalpers are right. So that is that. These starter boxes, fantastic. Probably the best way to start those armies if you like those models. That's pretty much to summarise how much I can say. If two of you are getting into the game, great way to go for it, certainly. Okay, so the next thing to talk about is going to be the Mortal Realm subscription service. Now, firstly, important thing to note on this is just for Stormcast and Nighthaunt. So if you don't like Stormcast and Nighthaunt, this isn't really worth it. There are ways for you to get a few extra models from different armies throughout the issues, but not worth it just for that, in my opinion, unless you really want an Arch region or something. So, what is the Mortal Realms subscription? And I literally did the video on this the other day, so if you want more details, look at that. But what it is, you pay a monthly amount or weekly amount, and you get models sent to you with a magazine from Games Workshop once a month. And you'll get a collection of 4 magazines each month. You can buy this away from Games Workshop if you want, and then you get the magazines weekly, which you might prefer, but you miss out on a few goodies if you do that. And the what you get, like I say, like 4 magazines a month. There are 80 magazines in total, so this goes on for a while, and it's going to take a while for you to get those models. Like, as you might be seeing in the background here, you can go online and get better pictures, or look at my last video where you get a better picture, and you can see the size of forces you're going to get. Firstly, you're going to get a load of paints, you're going to get some paint brushes, you're going to get a load of scenery for your gaming table if you want to do that, or for like basins and big models. And you're also going to get, of course, the 2 massive armies, which are Nighthaunt and Stormcast, which are both armies that are, the Nighthaunt one's over 2,500 points, and the Stormcast one is, I'm going to say, more than 2,000. I haven't calculated that one up, but it's going to be more than 2,000 points for sure. Probably maybe more than the Nighthaunt one. And that is essentially what you get, but it's going to take a while to get it. And also, like I say, if you don't like Nighthaunt or you don't like Stormcast, it's not really worth it for you. If you want to do it and then try and sell it on, I don't really think it's going to work as well. It's only, I should probably start with this as well, unfortunately, it's only available for, at the moment, people who live in the United Kingdom and Spain. That's just due to the distributor, I imagine. That's how it works. Maybe they say someday it may be available for people in America and whatnot, but at the moment, unfortunately, that's just who it is for. Apologies for everyone who's not in those. And the one thing I will say about this, so I've said quite a few negative things about this. However, this is the best value way to start Age of Sigmar if you're not bothered about getting all your models straight away to work on. That is what I will say about this. It is the best way to do it, but you are limited to the models you're going to get, and it's going to take a long time for you to get those models. But if you just want, if let's say you're very pushed for time, you know, you've got a very busy job, you've got a family life, all that sort of thing, you have an hour to hobby each week, this is perfect for you. You know, you're not gonna get swamped with models. You're gonna have to work at your own pace, and you'll be getting things with great value. So that is why I would suggest the Mortal Realms subscription to you. Or if you're like me, who I've got a few projects on the go, but I do like the idea of having these models from these armies in my collection, but I'm in no huge rush to buy them all now and then build them and paint them. I can wait the year or 2 years, however long it's going to take. Okay, so that is the Mortal Realms subscription. Now the next one I want to talk about are the Start Collecting Boxes. Now these are generally the best all-rounder at how you start an army in Age of Sigmar. Now I say all-rounder because they don't have a Start Collecting Box for every army, but they have them for, at a rough estimate on top of my head, probably about 90% of the allegiances out there. I'm going to go with that word, allegiances out there they have. And they are fantastic value boxes. They used to be better value, but they got a bit of a price increase, unfortunately. But I think that was with the drop of the pound. But they are still very good for what you get. Most of them you get anywhere between 15 to 30 pounds discount or something, or 40 pounds discount in some cases. They are very good. They are, again, limited to what you get in that box. Sometimes what you get in that box is not the best thing for the army. They might say start collecting Malignants, and it looks like a bunch of Nighthaunt stuff in there. You go, oh cool, start collecting Nighthaunt, nice, and I don't have to buy all the Soul War box. But bear in mind, with that box you're going to get, you only get 3 Spear Hosts, 5 Hexways, so you only get 2 units for your Nighthaunt army, and then the big Mortis Engine, like throne Palanquin thing you see in the back. For that to be good for Nighthaunt, you have to cut it up and convert it. So, there's a bit of a tricky one, so I would put a bit of research into them, and I would research heavily before you do choose whatever army you want to go for. Like I say, go for the ones you look at, but, there's also things like the lore that, might appeal to you, all these sorts of things. Particularly if you're like, oh, I don't really know which one I want to do, or even worse so when you have it down to like 3, and it's like, oh, I really like these 3 just as much, I don't really know what to go for, I love all the models. Look at the lore, it will help you. definitely. And yeah, this is really the best way to do it. The only thing I would say to this is obviously, like, you can buy, when you're buying, you know, models for an army, you can buy them all separately, can't you? You can buy one box at a time and all that sort of thing, which you can do, but you know, you are getting no discount if you buy all the models separately. Another thing to say is that these boxes are affordable ways into the game. Yes, you can buy, like, my first purchase of Age of Sigmar was a box of 10 skeletons, and I had, I think, like 3 games with that. My first 3 games were just for 10 skeletons. That was my army. Literally that. And in like some games these days, you would field 120 of them along the lines of everything else in your army. So that's the beauty of Age of Sigmar. You can play it with barely all, so you don't need to buy a Start Collector box. But if you do want to have a game that lasts more than like 3 minutes, get yourself a Start Collecting box. It gives you generally like a troop choice, so you know, basically some infantry along those lines. And it gives you like a hero, and it gives you like a monster or a centerpiece or a big monstrous infantry unit. They are really quite nice in that fashion. Some of the boxes are better than others in a value, and that is all part of the research you can do looking into it. So Start Collector boxes, overall the best way to start your army in Age of Sigmar. And the last one I want to talk about is second-hand Warhammer. You buy things on buy and sell pages or like eBay, etc. along those lines. Now, what a buy and sell page is, basically go onto Facebook, go onto buy, sell, swap, Age of Sigmar, there'll be something there, you know, Warhammer, something there, for 40k, there'll be something there, and it's essentially you buying Warhammer secondhand from another person, so you're not buying it new out of a box. And obviously, most of us are aware of this. If you're not aware of this, God, you're going to save loads of money. There are positives to this and there are negatives. So what you can do, one of the things is, if you've already got an army or something like that, you can swap it for another army if you trust someone enough that much on the internet, a complete stranger, but it usually works out. You can buy models on there and you can sell your models. When you buy them, usually you're going to get the best discount you're going to get anywhere in the world for Warhammer by buying it secondhand. Usually most Warhammer, when it's secondhand, it loses so much value unless it's like pro painted or it's an incredibly rare out of production model, as it's called, OOP, as it's sort of, you know, abbreviated. So that is that. The only thing I would say about buying secondhand, and I've done it and I've fallen into this trap because it's, you know, it's too easy to, because, you know, I don't know, I've got Scottish blood in me and I love a discount. So what that trap is someone will be selling, I don't know, £700 worth of models for £300. And let's say it's a Skaven army, a Gloomspite army, along those lines. You know, it's a horde army essentially. And you've literally just bought in one go for £300. There's normally £700, so like for £400 off here. And you've literally just bought this. That's like a really good discount. It's not usually that good, but I'm just saying it's a really good discount. That's that for an example. £400 off, and you got your models, and you look at it and you go, right, I've literally got about 500 models here to build and paint, or to paint, or whatever it is. And then you're there, and you're like, you've literally just drowned yourself in work. And it's funny to say work, isn't it? Because this is a hobby at the end of the day. This is what you do when you're not working, doing your day job or your night job, whatever you call it. This is not how you earn a living. This is how you like relax and, you know, chill out basically. Instead of watching the TV, putting on some Netflix, you're doing this instead, or maybe a bit of both. So you don't want to be seeing this as work, and that's the problem when you buy too much. I fall into the trap. I still have a few things left over from when I've done it, and sometimes you just get like so, like almost a little bit down about the massive collection, the massive work you got ahead of you, that you'll just sell it on or something, and it was basically a big mistake. That's the only thing I would say bear in mind. If you're going to fully accept that you have got a lot of work to do with that army, and you're prepared to do it, some people are really motivated, some people are not as good, then fair enough, you get some really good deals. Some other great things is you just buy like one unit on there, or a collection of models, or, you know, like, yeah, I don't know, you can easily find models on there, I don't know, like £210. You probably snap them up for about like £140 or something. Like, that's generally like a good deal price you would see on things like Facebook. eBay tends to be a bit more, but that's because they charge fees. And most people, when I've bought, I say most, pretty much everyone, maybe not everyone, but pretty much everyone that I've bought stuff on Facebook for has generally been really good. People are really nice. They're just like you. They just want to exchange models, or, you know, do a buy and sell and just have, you know, good business essentially. So that's that. But I would say just bear that in mind. The other good thing to say about secondhand models is if you have the luxury of having a bit more spare money, and you want to buy your models already painted, you want to buy them all pro painted, you can get from a commission painter or something a already painted full army for you. So you don't have to build and paint, you can just play the games. And if you can afford to do that, and that's what you like, you prefer to play the games because you don't have time to build or paint them, absolutely, go ahead, do that. You've got that option available to you. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the video. So what I wanted to just showcase here, it's not as straightforward as, well, it can be as straightforward as you go into a Warhammer store, pick up a box of models, you buy them, and that's your start into Age of Sigmar. And for me, that was my start. For a lot of people, that is their start. And for that reason, a lot of people like that sort of traditional start, sort of, it makes you feel like a kid when you were doing it, that sort of thing. But I just wanted to point out that in the modern times, the day and age, there's so many more bundle boxes. There's so many other ways you can start the hobby and Age of Sigmar. And you can start it, like I say, with one box with barely any models. You can start and you can go all the way up to colossal, massive battles with like hundreds, if not thousands of models on the board if you really want to have a massive, humongous game. And that's what I love about it. You don't have to go, right, okay, I need to spend at least like £400 on my army before I can play or anything. You don't have to. You can get away just playing with a Star Collector box for a while. It'll take you long enough to build and paint it. You've got that. So yeah, this video was quite like a brief one. Like I said, well, it's over 40 minutes already, but it was quite a brief one. I also kept it like this, so I want to dive a bit more further into each of these sort of specific areas I talked about. I mean, I've done over 200 videos on Age of Sigmar itself, so I've got a wealth of information for you guys if you want to check out and explore a bit more further. You can go ahead, and the videos tend to be, quite long. I go a bit in depth and stuff on them, and I'm continuing to do as many videos for Age of Sigmar as I can in the future. I think it'd be cool to do one talking about sort of what is Age of Sigmar as well, as a sort of like an overall thing. Would be quite cool. And I continue to do like army videos, like for example, if you like, I don't know, things like you like the idea of chaos or Nurgle or something like that, I've done like a whole series on that. You like Goons by Gits and the whole series on that, like Flesh of Courts. I've done the biggest series than anyone else on YouTube on that, because that's my baby army. And Slaves of Darkness, whatever, Nighthorn, plenty I've done on. And just wanted to let you guys know, if you're brand new to the channel, feel free to check that out. If you don't like it, that's absolutely fair enough. But if you did like it, please like, subscribe and comment down below. So that does massively help the channel. Absolutely free to do so. I really hope that you did enjoy this video. I want to say a massive thank you to my Patreon, so you always give me continued support and really do help me produce as many videos as I possibly can. And remember guys, until next time, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.